Hi, I'm TP McAtamney. I'm author of the book, My Waffles of Gold, A Man's Guide to Abusive Women. And today's subject, we're going to talk a little bit more about no contact. What no contact is, I've described in other videos, but in my everyday work in writing books and on this subject and articles and whatnot, I go to the Facebook pages on Facebook just to kind of look and see what other people are thinking, other victims of narcissistic and borderline and other types of abuse, to see what's going on in their life and how they're responding to their recovery. And when I'm doing this, I see some people posting that, for instance, my ex contacted me today and they said blah 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 blah, and I feel like crap. Generally what I read, and the first thing I think about is, well, how are they contacting you in the first place? I mean, after all, you're supposed to be going no contact. I mean, everybody knows this rule, but yet they still are practicing some sort of contact with this person, and they're either receiving text or phone calls or emails, and it's just ruining their day. And the question I have is, well, why aren't you sealing these people off so they can't contact you? Now, some people are still married to this person. They share kids. They're in the process of divorce, so they have to have some type of contact. And I said before, well, I understand that. And there's a general rule for practicing in those situations, and it's called Gray Rock. And what Gray Rock basically says is limited contact. As needed for business purposes only, I call it, so that you can do the legal processes, custody situations and things that you need to do in order to make sure you don't run afoul of the law and care for the children that may be involved in the property that's due you, and getting things like that in order. But in the problem with Gray Rock, it still allows for the abuser to contact you with non-business like stuff like, hey, can we get together? Remember, this is the anniversary of us going to the Fleetwood Mac concert together. Remember that? We had such a good time. And that's really just what they call a hoovering ploy, where they're trying to get you back in to a relationship with them. They're trying to pull you back in just so they can destroy whatever's left of you, basically. They have no intention of getting back in a relationship with you. One or two things has happened. Either they're just bored, out of a relationship, or in a relationship and just got dumped, that guy too, or that girl. And they want to basically come back and destroy whatever's left of you. Or get whatever. Maybe you just came into something and they know they didn't get that either. Which is basically what my narc did on the first Hoover. They decided to come back in only because they just were lonely. That's what they said. Or what they had before didn't work out. And basically to get whatever else was left out of my already mostly empty house, which I gladly gave away, because in those days I was still running the codependency thing for myself, and which I found out in my therapy I had my whole life. And I was always a good giver awayer anyway, so they took advantage of that. But as I said before, when I left the narcissist, I went total no contact. There were some few contacts by them in the initial couple of weeks, and I didn't respond to those at all. I was done, and I wasn't going back. And it had nothing to do with paying back a narcissist or showing them, anything. It was to save my own life. I got up one night and I left, and I never went back. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm even going to live, basically, any different than I am now, but I am definitely not going to be here whenever that happens. And as I told you before, my change of my life, my recovery began that night. And it wasn't too long before I saw good people and got in with my therapist, and other people just started coming into my life in droves. I found that if I truly tried to work my recovery, people came in to help me through it. It's amazing how that works, whether you believe in a God, or I call them Eskimos or angels or whatever, but in any case, they came in and really helped me out. They pointed me in the direction I needed to go. It wasn't long before I was enrolled in college, and a year later I met another lady, and we became engaged and got married, and we have now celebrated our 1st year anniversary, and just live a perfectly, you know, for all intents and purposes, normal life. And I'm even living halfway across the globe, which I didn't see happening when I left the NARC. But the one thing I did do that was the most positive thing of my recovery was to stay with no contact. And it wasn't easy. I won't lie to you. It wasn't easy, but I knew that I could not slip back. And part of my experience in my life, and it coincided with my experience with the NARC, was I used to have a really bad problem drinking, if you want to call it alcoholism or whatever, way back in the day. And then quit for many years, nearly 20 years, with my wife of 30 years who had passed away before all this happened. And basically started to drink again when I got with the NARC. It was a little bit before that, because it was really hard watching my wife die. I fell off the wagon, as to speak. And with the more stress I had in the relationship with the NARC, the drinking increased and whatnot. And so the first thing I had to do, I did actually before I left the NARC, was found some help through Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd been there many years before, and it's the only place I could think to go. So I went there, and my therapist thought it was a good idea. And I read, you know, I met people I didn't know, but helped me greatly. And the one thing they have, the one rule they have in there, that should be practiced by all victims of narcissistic abuse. They told me, stay away from the bars, don't go down the liquor store aisle, don't do anything that if you have to drive 3 blocks around the liquor store to find another way home, that's what you do to stay away from this stuff. That's what you do to stay away, because you put it in, anything you put in your mind, remember, as I said in another video, enters your emotions, and it's so going to direct your will. You can't fool yourself until you're strong enough. I mean, today, you know, 2 years plus removed, I don't have that problem. I can drive, you know, well, I currently live in Dubai, so there's really no liquor here anyway, but it doesn't bother me. I don't think about it all day long. I'm recovered and back on track, and in a much better way than I've ever been in my life since I was with my wife that passed away. So, you know, we grow from our experiences, but I couldn't have done it if I continually hung around the liquor store. You know, I had to move on, eventually just move on. And from the NARC, you know, from leaving the NARC, I had to go no contact. No matter how much I felt like I should send a text, try to reconnect. And there were some lonely periods after I left her. Lonely periods. I was all by myself. And sitting in my house, basically picked clean. I was sitting on a mattress. I had no money. I was eating peanut butter sandwiches. And, you know, I take responsibility for the things I can take responsibility for. I was having trouble finding a job because I was in a field that doesn't really hire people my age. And I just entered the college and then a job training program to find something else to do. But that was because I stayed resolute to remain no contact. I said, no, I can't contact. And, you know, the person is going to remain in your mind. I understand that. You make psychological, physiological bonds to this person over time. It's inevitable. It's the way we're made as human beings. It doesn't matter who you're with. If you're with somebody in a relationship, you share a bed with somebody, you create these bonds, and they're hard to break. The one thing that helped me to break these bonds is to realize they were false bonds in the first place. Whatever there was that I thought was there between me and the narcissist was fake from the get-go. The person had misrepresented themselves. They were never that into me in the first place. It didn't take long for them to go from the honeymoon into the value stage. It was weeks, not months. And they immediately made me feel like crap every day. So everything in the relationship was a lie. And I continually found these lies, and then I even found them more after I left the relationship. And that helped me break the bond. You know, because a bond is more or less a subconscious bond. It's both physical and biological, but it's also a subconscious bond. We don't even realize it's there. And all we need is a trigger and an event for it to come forward. And all that comes into play in making no contact, at least in the initial stage, is hard, but you got to do it. When I go to these sites and I see people struggling with no contact, saying that they texted me, they've recontacted me, they appeared at my door or whatever, I say that that's the time you've got to be the strongest you've ever been in your life. The strongest you've ever been in your life. You know, I said that before that my wife had cancer. at her final diagnosis, she actually had it for about 14 years before, and then throughout that last 14 years in different stages of the same type of cancer, and then was re-diagnosed in around 2009 as a fatal form of it, and operations and chemo. At the same time in 2009, just because it's the luck of the draw, I received a cancer diagnosis through a physical exam, and we actually both went through 5 weeks of radiation together, and we made the best of it. You know, it was kind of almost a sweet time, but it was also a sad time. We'd show up every morning. We used to call ourselves the cancer twins, and we would go through our treatment. It was hard. If anybody's ever received radiation for cancer, they know it's very tiring. I would come home and have to set her down, and then go to work myself and work a 12-hour day as an IT guy. You know, that's a very stressful job in itself, and I was worn out after a couple of weeks. But I did it. We went through it because we had a goal in mind, that was to get better. And you go no contact because you're looking down the road and saying, I want to get better. The real question is, do you want to continue to feel like crap? Because recontacting your abuser, either recontacting or by text or even perusing their Facebook page, looking who they're with now, you know, that's one of the ways to break no contact. Okay, you know, people say, well, they're not actually contacting me, I'm just kind of like looking at. You should have been blocking their Facebook from day one, so that you can't see them and they can't see you, and then block it and forget it. What are you looking at? Well, they were there with somebody else. They look so happy. Why weren't we happy like that? Well, the fact is, that's fake. They're not happy. That's probably, if they've been gone a year, that's probably the 16th relationship they've had since the relationship with you broke up. You know, they go through relationships just like a cycle. You know, they take somebody like a locust, they fly on and they go to the next field, they strip it dry and then go to the next field and the next field. These people would never stop at just one. So you were just one in many fields that they've already been through before you and are continuing to devour as they go through life until they can devour no more, when nobody else can possibly want them, and they get old age, and then by that time they're cranky old people who live with cats. Okay, the thing is, and that's nothing against cats, by the way, but you get the point. You shouldn't be even worried about that. So why are you going to their Facebook page, looking at what they're doing and worrying about them at all? If you can get through, it's like leaving a drug or alcohol. If you can get through the first even 30 days of no contact without contacting, you're going to find, well, I can go another 30 days. I'll try another 30 days, no contact, and then try another 30. In the meantime, work on you. Go see somebody about it. Go talk, you know, work on it. What do I want to do with my life now? Well, you know, I'm really missing. No, don't miss them. What could you do now that you could not possibly do with this person? You could not possibly do with this person. Every day with this person you felt like crap. Well, you can be happy. That's a concept. You can just be happy. You can. I picked up bike riding. You know, I lived by the beach at the time, and I could ride my bike by the beach, and I just went to the beach. I went alone. I attended festivals that I'd never attended before. They have a lot of them on this beach. I went to a classic car festival. I'd never been to a classic car festival in my life. I had a ball. It was all by myself, but I had a ball. They had a band, and you know, it was great. It was great, and I took pictures, and you know, it was fun. I hooked up with an old friend of mine, somebody that I'd known many years. It was a woman, but we had a platonic relationship for years, and we wanted to keep it that way. I knew her husband had passed away. We had a similar thing with both of our long-term spouses. We had known all four of us had known each other for 20-some years. I hooked up with her. We went to movies together, out to eat every once in a while, but just platonic stuff, hanging out, getting back into life. And like I said, I lost weight. You know, everything got better. Everything got better. And as I said before, lo and behold, because I was doing my program, and I called it my program, I met my current wife. And now I live in the UAE, of all places, in Dubai, the UAE. And I'm 7,000 miles away. And now I'm having even more fun because I have a whole new family over here. And my daughter is now having another grandchild. And life is getting a lot better every day. I look forward to the future. You know, if I look back toward the past now, I look at my wife who passed away. You know, that's what I look at. I remember fondly those days. I began to also go through a real grief process that I didn't get a chance to go through, that I didn't allow myself to go through because I got in a relationship with a narc who hurried me through a supposed grief process just to get rid of my wife's stuff, and became insanely jealous. First flag was the most insane jealousy I've ever seen of somebody who basically picked up a widower just months after, or weeks actually, after his wife passed away. And I actually got to go through that process. I went through that with a therapist and basically got to put that in a proper perspective. I will always grieve her in one way or another, and that's okay too. My current wife is not threatened by that. That's a difference, you see. She knows I love her. I live in the present. But sometimes, you know, I tell her, and I'm very honest with her about my grief. And I know someday that'll be put aside. But now it's a growing process for me. It can't happen without no contact. You have to remain no contact. Think of your life before the narcissist. Think of it with the narcissist. And now you're out of the relationship. Either they threw you away, and don't even feel bad. Whether they threw you away, you walked away, it's still the same result. Don't feel discarded. That's what these people do. You weren't in the wrong. You were too good for them. You see? You were too good for them. They don't deserve you, not the other way around. You're not defective. They are. So move on. Thank yourself. Thank the good Lord. You don't have to have this person in your life anymore tearing you down and ripping you off and taking all your stuff and taking advantage of you. Move on then with your life. Learn from the experience and move on. You can't do this unless you do total no contact, as much as is possible with your situation. This is T.P. McIntyre. I'm author of the book, My Waffles Are Cold, A Man's Guide to Abusive Women. Thanks for listening today, and I'll see you real soon.